The autumn wind carried the scent of pine and distant snow as Jed Haverson guided his horse down the winding trail toward Cedar Ridge. He hadn't been to town in nearly 3 months, and he wouldn't be now if not for the empty shells in his mountain cabin. Salt, flour, coffee, the simple things even a man who chosen solitude couldn't live without. At 42, Jad cut a striking figure against the golden aspens. His beard, once black, now showed threads of silver that caught the late sunlight. Broad shoulders filled out his old buckskin jacket, and his scarred hands held the res with the calm control of a man who'd survived hard years and harder losses. Folks in Cedar Ridge still remembered him from before Sarah died of fever 6 winters back, but they said the same thing now whenever his name came up. Jed Haverson ain't smiled since. The town came into view around a bend. Rough, honeyed buildings pressed close against the mountainside like they were bracing for a storm. Smoke curled from chimneys. The clang of a blacksmith echoed through the valley, and the smell of horses, whiskey, and wood smoke mixed in the sharp air. Jed pulled his hat lower, hoping to finish his business quick and ride back before dark. But as he reached the main street, a strange noise caught his attention. A crowd gathered near the square, mostly men, their voices carrying with cruel laughter. He almost rode past. Almost, but his horse slowed on its own, as if sensing his unease. "Come on, gentlemen," a voice shouted from the platform. "Surely someone here needs a woman about the house. Strong as an ox, eats less than one." The speaker was Howard Briggs, a man Jed knew to be meaner than a cornered coyote and twice as greedy. Beside him stood a woman, or what seemed to be one. A rough grain sack was pulled over her head, her hands tied in front. "She ain't much to look at," Briggs went on, his laughter sharp and ugly, "but she'll work hard. A man could do worse if he don't mind his company quiet." The crowd shifted. Some men chuckled. Others looked away in shame. A few women on the edges pulled their shawls tight and hurried off. "What's her story?" someone called. "Let's just say her first arrangement didn't work out," Briggs said, spitting tobacco juice. Her former suitor decided she wasn't worth the trouble. Too wild, too peculiar, one man's trash. "Gentlemen," the words made Jed's jaw tighten. The figure on the platform didn't flinch, but her shoulders squared, her chin lifted. That small, proud motion struck Jed harder than the cold air. $5, someone called mockingly. "5, you insult me," Briggs barked. "She can work dawn to dusk. Worth 10 times that, I'd say." "Then why the sack?" another voice challenged. "If she's such a prize, let's see her face." "Terms of sale," Briggs said quickly. "Previous owner insisted, said it's better this way. Trust me, you're not buying her for her pretty looks." The laughter that followed was cruel. Jed felt something burn deep in his chest. Anger, pity, something else he didn't care to name. He'd seen men sell horses, cattle, even dogs, but never a human soul. $3, someone muttered. 2 damaged goods. The woman's hands tightened to fists. Briggs's smile faltered. "Come now. She's a Christian woman, knows her letters, can cook and keep house." "This ain't right, Briggs," came a deep voice from the crowd. "Samuel Morrison, the blacksmith. You can't sell people." "Right or wrong ain't my concern," Briggs snapped. "I'm just handling a legal transaction." He waved a paper in the air now. "Any serious offers before I take her to the next town?" Silence. The laughter had died now, replaced by uneasy murmurs. The woman swayed slightly, exhausted. Jed wondered how long she'd stood there on display like livestock. "Going once," Briggs called. "Going twice, $10." The words came from Jed's mouth before he realized he'd spoken. The crowd turned in surprise. The mountain man, who never spoke to anyone, who lived like a ghost, had just bought himself a bride. Briggs' grin returned fast. $10 to Mr. Haverson. Do I hear 15? No. Sold to the mountain hermit himself. Quote, the laughter returned, but Jed didn't care. He swung down from his horse, pulled a worn wallet from his coat, and climbed the steps. Up close, he saw the woman was tall, nearly his height. The rough sack hid her face, but her bearing, straight, proud, told him enough. Whatever she'd done, she wasn't broken. The papers, Jed said quietly. Briggs handed them over, his greed shining through. She's all yours. Good luck. You'll need it. He leaned close, voice dropping. Best keep that sack on till you're clear of town. Trust me? Jed ignored him. Ma'am, he said softly, his voice rough from disuse. Can you ride? A small nod beneath the sack. My horse is there. We'll be leaving now. He reached to guide her, but she pulled back, offering her bound wrists instead. Jed untied the rope, noting the raw skin beneath. Then, without another word, they walked through the parted crowd. Jed helped her mount, then swung up behind her. She sat stiff as a fence post, but didn't protest. As his arm reached around her for the reins, as they rode out of Cedar Ridge, Briggs called after them, Remember, Haverson, no returns. The words faded into the cold mountain wind. For a long while, neither spoke. The forest closed around them, the sound of hooves soft on the pine needles. Finally, her muffled voice came from under the sack. Why, Jed thought for a moment before answering. Didn't seem right. Nobody deserves that. She was silent for a long time. Then softly, you don't know what you've bought. Didn't buy anything, he said. Just paid to get you away from that crowd. Another long pause, then, thank you. They rode on. The sun sank behind the peaks, the world turning silver with twilight. Somewhere far below, a wolf howled. The woman didn't flinch. If anything, she seemed to breathe easier, as though the wilderness was kinder than the town they'd left behind. When the moon rose over the ridgeline, Jed finally saw the outline of his cabin, a squat shape against the trees, smoke curling faintly from its chimney. He dismounted, helped her down. She stood still, her breath visible in the cold air, waiting. Inside, Jed lit a kerosene lamp. Warm light spread over the simple room, a bed, a small table, shelves of dried goods, everything neat and quiet. You can sit, he said. I'll get the fire going. She obeyed, her movements careful. He poured water, set it near her hands. You must be thirsty. She hesitated. The sack, she murmured. I'll take it off, Jed said gently. If you're willing. A moment's pause, then she nodded. He loosened the twine around her neck and lifted the sack away. The light revealed her face bit by bit. A strong jaw, high cheekbones, a scar running from temple to cheek, hair roughly cut, dark auburn stree with silver. But it was her eyes that stopped him cold. One deep brown, one pale green, striking, defiant, unforgettable. Jed's breath caught, but he said only, water's fresh. Brought it from the spring this morning. Something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe. Are you hungry? He asked. Got some stew I can warm. I don't want to be trouble, she whispered. No trouble. I need to eat anyway. He stirred the pot over the fire, the smell of herbs filling the room. My name is Mara, she said after a long silence. Just Mara. Jed Haverson, he replied. She studied him. Alone up here, 6 years now, her gaze dropped to the fire, and now you have me. What am I to you, Mr. Haverson? You paid money. You have papers, as far as I'm concerned, Jed said, turning toward her. You're a guest who needed help out of a bad place. Nothing more. You'd let me leave. Come morning, if you want to go. I'll take you wherever you need to be. We can burn that paper Briggs gave me right now. Mara looked at him a long time. Why would you do that? $10 is no small thing. Jed shrugged. Money is just money. Can always earn more. Can't always live with yourself if you watch wrong being done. Her eyes softened a little. "You'll take the bed tonight," he said. "I'll sleep by the fire." I couldn't. "You could and you will." She hesitated, then nodded. "The man who had me before, he'll come looking." "Let him." Jed's voice was quiet, steady. "This is my land. No one takes what's mine." Mara gave a small, tired smile. "It's been a long time since anyone showed me kindness without asking payment. No payment needed, just rest." As she lay down facing the wall, Jed watched the fire light flicker across her scarred face. She wasn't beautiful, not in the way of fragile women, but there was something fierce and alive about her that stirred something deep inside him. He banked the fire stretched out on the floor. Outside, the wind whispered through the pines. Inside, two lonely souls, one haunted, one hunted, began the slow work of thawing from years of cold. The first week passed in uneasy peace. Mara rose with the dawn, moving about the cabin quietly while Jed handled his morning chores. She insisted on working, cooking, mending, cleaning, but she did it with a quiet confidence that surprised him. She wasn't meek, just deliberate. Every move she made had purpose, like someone who'd spent years learning to survive on her own. Jed found himself growing used to her presence in small ways. The sound of her humming while she stirred the stew, the smell of soap on her hands when she folded laundry, the soft creak of the floorboards under her light steps. His cabin didn't feel so empty anymore. On the 8th night, as snow began to fall again, she finally spoke of her past. They were sitting by the fire, Jed oiling his traps, Mara mending socks by lamplight. His name was Garrett Walsh, she said quietly, not looking up. He owned the Double Bar Ranch. Jed froze for a moment, the cloth in his hands stilling. He knew the name, everyone in the territory did. A rich man with a mean streak and a talent for hiding it behind money. My father owed him a debt, gambling. Mara's voice stayed steady, though her eyes were far away. When he couldn't pay, Walsh offered another arrangement. Me not as a wife, as property. A housekeeper bound to his service until the debt was cleared. Jed didn't interrupt. He let her speak, his jaw tightening with each word. I did everything expected of me for 2 years. Cooked, cleaned, kept books, tended stock. But it wasn't enough. He wanted obedience, not just labor. Wanted me to be grateful for the crumbs he threw. When I refused to bow, he struck me. Her fingers brushed the scar on her cheek. That was the last time he touched me. I fought back, poured hot coffee in his face and ran. Made it 3 days before his men caught me. He didn't kill me. Too proud for that. Said death was too easy. So he told everyone I was mad, a liar, a woman possessed. The fire cracked, spitting sparks. Jed's hands clenched on his knees. He spread stories. She continued, her voice turning bitter. Said my eyes were a mark of witchcraft, that I tried to poison him. People believed him. In a God-fearing town, all it takes is a whisper. No one would hire me. No one would even look me in the eye. Jed looked into the flames for a long moment before speaking. So he sold you. She nodded to whoever would take me far enough away that he wouldn't have to see me again. Silence filled the room. Only the crackle of the fire and the wind outside broke it. Finally, Jed said softly, "Sounds to me like you stood your ground. There's nothing mad about that." Her lips lifted slightly, the ghost of a smile. "You're either very kind or very foolish, Mr. Haverson been called." "Both," he said, his eyes warm in the firelight. They sat in comfortable silence for a while before she spoke again. "I have a sister, Eliza, 17. When I fled, Walsh kept her. Said she'd take my place. Said if I ever tried to speak out, he'd make sure no one ever saw her again." Tears shimmered in her mismatched eyes. "She's still there, Jed. I left her behind." Jed's voice was calm but firm. "We'll get her out." Mara blinked, caught off guard. "What? Your sister? We'll find a way." "You don't understand," she said desperately. "He's powerful, has men, money, friends in high places. You can't fight a man like that." Jed leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "I've fought worse. I know these mountains better than any man alive. I've got friends in the hills who owe me favors, and I've got patience that counts for something. Quote, her voice broke. Why would you risk your life for me, for us? He looked at her steadily. Because it's the right thing to do. Because I couldn't save my wife when the fever took her, and I'll be damned if I stand by while another good woman gets crushed under some man's heel. Mara covered her face with her hands. For the first time, she let herself cry. Jed said nothing, just let the fire crackle, and the wind hummed through the pines. When she finally looked up again, her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. You'd really do this? Quote, I would. She shook her head in disbelief. You don't even know me. I know enough. He said simply. That night, as they banked the fire and lay down, her in the bed, him on the floor, the silence between them felt different. Not heavy this time, not lonely, but filled with something unspoken, fragile, and new. The next morning, the snow had stopped, and the mountain lay still and white. But that calm didn't last. By midday, the sound of horses echoed through the pines. Jed was splitting wood out back when he heard it. 3 riders approaching. He wiped his hands, grabbed his rifle, and stepped around the cabin. A man in a long coat led the group, his badge glinting in the weak sunlight. Jed Haverson, he called. That's me. Marshal Roy Brennan, the man said, dismounting. I've got business concerning a woman in your company. Goes by the name of Mara. That right. Mara appeared in the doorway, face pale but proud. I'm here. The marshal unfolded a paper. You're accused of breach of contract and theft. One Garrett Walsh of the Double Bar Ranch claims you fled his employment and took valuables worth $50. That's a lie, she said, her voice tight. He's twisting the law to keep me a prisoner. Brennan looked at her carefully. Maybe so, but the papers are legal. Debt service for 7 years, signed and witnessed. Jed stepped closer. Signed under threat. That makes it no law at all. The marshal sighed. That's not how the courts see it, son. I got orders to take her back. Mara lifted her chin. Then let me make a statement, marshal officially. Brennan hesitated. This ain't usually how. You're sworn to uphold justice, aren't you? She cut in sharply. Then you'll listen. Something in her voice made him nod. All right. Inside, they gathered around Jed's small table. Mara stood by the fire and told everything. The forced labor, the abuse, the threats, the other women trapped by debts they couldn't pay. She spoke of Eliza, the sister held hostage, and the doctor who treated her bruises. By the time she finished, the younger deputy had gone pale. The marshal's expression was grim. These are serious charges, he said finally. You got anyone can back this up. Town doctor, maybe one of the ranch hands, and Briggs, the man who sold me. Briggs, Brennan muttered darkly. That explains a lot. He folded the papers slowly. Officially, I came to retrieve a runaway debtor. He looked at Jed, then back to Mara. But I didn't find one. All I saw was Mr. Haverson and his wife lawfully married and minding their own business. Mara blinked. Wife, quote. Brennan's tone softened. A married woman can't be forced back under a labor contract. Law protects her. Jed said quietly, that settle it then. The marshal smiled faintly. It would. I'd recommend filing the paper as soon as you can. He put on his hat, nodding once. Good luck, folks. Something tells me you'll need it. When he was gone, Mara turned to Jed, still stunned. Married. Just words if that's all you want them to be. Jed said, but they'll protect you. She looked at him for a long moment, her mismatched eyes glimmering. You'd do that for me? He smiled slightly. Seems we've already started something worth protecting. For the first time, Mara laughed, a soft, uncertain sound that warmed the cold cabin. Yes, she whispered, I'll marry you, Jed Haverson. Outside, snow began to fall again, soft and slow, covering the wounds of the past beneath a clean white blanket. Inside, 2 broken souls began to build something whole. Storm came sooner than expected. By morning, the sky over the mountain had turned the color of old iron. Jed stood at the window, rifle across his arm, watching the tree line. They'll come, he said quietly. Men like Walsh don't give up. Myra was at the hearth, packing supplies into a small sack. Her movements were steady, her face calm, but Jed saw the tension in her shoulders. Then we'll be ready, she said. By noon, the snow was falling thick and fast. The cabin glowed warm against the storm's gray smoke curling from the chimney. It might have seemed peaceful if not for the tracks that appeared in the clearing an hour later. 8 riders. They moved slow, careful, rifles visible across their saddles. Regulators, Jed muttered. Hired guns. They stopped just beyond the yard. One man rode forward, his fine coat slick with snow. Garrett Walsh himself, his voice carried across the clearing. Haverson, you've got something that belongs to me. Send her out and I'll let you live. Jed didn't move, didn't speak. Walsh waited, then barked. You think the law can protect her? The law works for me. Still nothing. Finally he growled. So be it, boys. Take him alive if you can, but kill the mountain man if you have to. Then came the gunfire. The first bullets splintered the cabin wall. Jed dropped low and returned fire, his rifle barking once, twice. 2 men down before they even reached cover. Mara was already at the back window, shotgun steady in her hands. When a figure appeared through the snow, she fired, the sound deafening inside the cabin. Smoke, noise, and chaos filled the air. Jed reloaded, breathing slow, calm. He'd fought storms before, men and weather both. You didn't panic. You just held steady. A torch flew through the window. Mara kicked it back out before it could catch the curtains. They'll try to burn us out, she shouted. They'll try, Jed said grimly, but I soaked the roof yesterday. Won't catch easy. Another volley of gunfire shattered the window. Jed shot back, then ducked. How many you count? 6 left, Mara answered, her voice calm, her reloading quick. Maybe 7. Good. They fought on. Each shot echoed through the mountains. Jed caught one man as he tried to circle to the rear. Another tried the door and got a blast of Mara's shotgun for his trouble. Then through the chaos, Walsh's voice came again. You can't win, Haverson. The law's on my side, Jed shouted back. Law ain't written by men like you. But even as he spoke, the door frame cracked under impact. 2 men ramming it with their shoulders. Jed fired. One fell. Other burst through. He swung the rifle hard, striking the man across the jaw. Behind him, Mara fired again. Her face streaked with sweat and smoke. Window, she cried. Jed spun. A gun barrel glinted. The man fired, but too late. Jed's shot hit first. Silence followed, broken only by the crackle of the fire and the moan of the wind. Then hooves, many hooves. More coming, Mara whispered. Jed listened, heart pounding. Then his eyes widened. No, not them. The sound wasn't fast like charging horses. It was heavy, familiar. The trappers. Through the falling snow, figures appeared, a dozen. Mountain men led by old Tom Buchanan. They rode hard into the clearing, rifles ready. You all right, Jed? Tom shouted. Better now, Jed called back. The hired guns, seeing themselves outnumbered, faltered. Walsh cursed, yelling at them to fight, but fear had taken hold. Then everything happened fast. Shots cracked, shouts echoed, and the men who'd come to kill scattered like dry leaves in the wind. Some dropped their weapons and ran. Others were pulled from horses, disarmed, tied up. Walsh turned to flee, but his horse spooked. Mara raised her rifle, steady and sure, and fired. The horse stumbled, throwing him into the snow. He scrambled up, tried to run, but Tom's sons were already on him. They dragged him back to the cabin, kicking and cursing. His fine coat was torn, his face pale with rage. You'll hang for this, he spat. You and that witch of yours. Mara stepped forward, her mismatched eyes shining like firelight. No witch, Mr. Walsh, just a woman who won't kneel to you anymore. Jed handed her a paper and a pen. He's going to write, Tom, right here. A letter freeing her sister, clearing her debts. Quote, Tom grinned. Gladly, they set Walsh at the table, surrounded by grim faces. His hands shook as he wrote, signing away everything he'd once controlled. When he was done, Mara took the paper in her hands. Her voice was steady. You'll send my sister here unharmed. You'll never step foot in these mountains again. He glared up at her. You think this ends it? Quote. Jed leaned close, his voice low and deadly. I know it does. Walsh looked around, trappers watching, rifles ready, and something in him broke. His shoulders slumped. Fine, he muttered. Take her. Take it all. Tom and his boys hauled him outside, bound for Cedar Ridge, where the marshal would finish it. When the horses disappeared down the trail, Mara stood silent, clutching the letter. Snow fell soft around her, landing on her dark hair like silver dust. It's over, she whispered. Jed stepped beside her. Almost one thing left. Quote, Eliza. She said. He nodded. They rode before dawn, leaving the cabin in Tom's care. The trail to the Double Bar Ranch was long and cold, but neither spoke of turning back. When they reached the valley, Mara pointed through the trees. There, she said, that's where he kept her. They crept close under cover of darkness. Only a few guards remained, the ranch already half abandoned. A small light burned in the upper window. Eliza and Mara breathed. They slipped through the back door, moving quiet as ghosts. Upstairs, the door creaked open under Mara's trembling hand. A young girl sat by the window, pale, her hair tangled, her eyes wide with disbelief. Mara ran to her, pulling her into her arms. I'm here, little bird. You're safe. Eliza sobbed against her shoulder. He said you were dead. Not anymore. They turned to leave, but a voice stopped them cold. Well, the prodigal sister returns. Curtis Bramwell, Walsh's foreman, stood in the hall with a pistol aimed at them. His smile was mean and slow. Orders said if you ever came back, I was to make sure you didn't leave again. Jed raised his rifle. You can lower that gun, Mr. Bramwell sneered. Don't think so. Then another shot from behind him. Bramwell staggered, eyes wide. Behind him stood Rosa, the old housekeeper, a smoking pistol in her hands. 20 years I watched wicked men in this house, she said softly, no more. Bramwell fell, and it was over. By sunrise, they were halfway up the mountain. Eliza clung to Mara, weak but safe. When the cabin finally came into view, Mara began to cry deep, shaking sobs of relief. Inside, Jed built a fire, wrapped Eliza in blankets, and set Stu to warm. The girl watched him with wide eyes. You're my brother now, she asked shyly. Jed smiled. If you'll have me, she nodded. I think I'd like that. Mara took his hand, her eyes soft. You've given me everything I thought I'd lost. He shook his head. No, we just built it together. Outside, the snow began to melt. Spring came early that year. They rebuilt the cabin, added a second room for Eliza, planted a small garden. One morning, Marshal Brennan returned with good news. Walsh's land seized, his crimes exposed, his power gone for good. Mara's sister bloomed like the mountain flowers, laughing again. And in time, so did Mara. Months later, under a bright summer sky, Pastor Williams from Cedar Ridge rode up to the cabin. Friends gathered, Tom, Rosa, the trappers, even the blacksmith and his wife. In the yard, with the peaks shining in the distance, Jed and Mara stood hand in hand. Do you, Jed Haverson, take this woman to be your wife? I do, Jed said simply, and I thank God for the day I found her. And do you, Mara, take this man to be your husband? She smiled, eyes shining. I already have, but yes, I do. When they kissed, the crowd cheered, and the mountains carried the sound for miles. Later, as the sun dipped low, Mara stood with Jed at the fence, watching the world turn gold. I thought the day you bought me was the worst of my life, she said softly. Jed smiled. Funny thing about life. Sometimes it hides its blessings behind bad beginnings. She laughed, leaning her head on his shoulder. Best $10 you ever spent, Mr. Haverson. He kissed her forehead. Best $10 in the whole world. Quote. The wind whispered through the pines, carrying with it the smell of wild flowers and wood smoke. Inside the cabin, Eliza's laughter rang like music. The mountain man who'd bought a rejected bride had found his heart again. and the woman once hidden under a sack had found her freedom and love strong enough to last a lifetime.